Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Want to talk about the wars taking place on the world. Again, the war on your wallet, weather warfare, the trade war, and hopefully help a few more people see the forest for the trees. Sadly, yesterday we talked about how Kentucky would likely be targeted today with tornadoes because weather warfare is a real thing and it's nearly 100 years old. So if you don't know about it, it's time to pull your head out of your bottom. And sadly, there have been a lot of tornadoes in Kentucky today and a lot of destruction. And we covered why that would be the case yesterday. But yeah, let's just go through everything that's buzzing right now one by one and talk about how it's news by the numbers, the agenda by the Kabbalistic code of ABC 123. A big thing circulating here today in the U.S. is how Trump's trade war is going to cost the average American about $2,100 per year. As long as things stay this way, 2,100. We know who that number's special to. Again, in Gematria, trade equals 21 like Jesuit. And again, Donald Trump, Jesuit puppet, for people who don't know. For all you guys who run around and blame everything on small hats, and it's a small hats, it's a small hats. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Nobody was warning about small hats when this nation was created. What they were warning about was the Jesuits. The Jesuits. Pretty much the same reason this nation was created. The Jesuits who served the Catholic Church. That church hell-bent on dominating the world and its people and collecting money from them. The one that used to impose indulgences. A form of taxation, just like tariffs. But yeah, this is the headline, 2,100 per household. Notice the Gematria going to trade in Jesuit, 21 just like war. And this is a trade war by the numbers. Again, if you're new here, this practice of coding numbers into words comes from Kabbalah. At the end of the 16th century, the century of the Jesuits' creation, they implemented the calendar and standardized the alphabet with the 26 letters. And they put a system into motion that's used every single day. Look at the word war. What day did Trump impose his trade war? On April 2nd, 4-2. Now the next day, the headline emerges, going to cost everybody $2,100 per household on average. Not an accident. And again, World War also has that big fat 42 as well as 48, going with Donald Trump's speech of 48 minutes yesterday explaining his trade war, which there's really no explanation for other than he serves the tyrant masters at the top who are behind Agenda 2030, where they want to reduce world consumption, but make sure their wealth gets larger and larger while everyone else's shrinks so that they have greater control over humanity. And everybody should have known that this is what this goon would do when he would come in, because it's exactly what he did last time he was in office. He went along with the banker Switzerland scandemic, printed money, caused hyperinflation. Only one group of people benefit from inflation, and those are the people who hold major assets, because the assets keep up with the inflation. You know, if you own a whole bunch of real estate and inflation happens, all of your property values go way up. If you don't hold assets, now you can't afford property and only the rich ruling class can. If you hold the gold, you know, the gold goes way up in value. Your dollars don't. That's why inflation, again, there can be a beneficial side to this. And all this purposeful chaos they're creating does benefit the tyrants at the top who know what day the cards are going to get pulled. And let's not forget what a house of cards is, an economy on the verge of collapse. And let's not forget that the chump started running when the hit show in this nation was House of Cards. And now we're covering that, nearly a decade ago. Well, it was a decade ago now. It was 2015. Yeah, next month will mark the anniversary of the chump declaring that he's running for office the first time around. But yeah, 2,100. And here, let's see, where's the market right now at the moment. The market is down over 1,400 points at the moment. So it's down even further. And realize when the market goes down, if you're on the inside, you can make a lot of money on the market going down. You can sell high, buy low. You can play the game of options. You can make a lot of money in options when the market's going down. So understand, things going down doesn't mean it's bad for everybody's pocketbook. For the average person who just sits in the market and lets their investment grow over time, for the person who's on the verge of retiring right now and they've watched their portfolio shrink 100,000 since Trump came into office, this kind of stuff really hurts. They also have the mindset, though, the market does go up and down. It'll probably go back up. But realize everything right now that's being done is meant to take things down for the average American and the type of chump who voted for the chump. And I'm sorry, if you voted for this man, you are a chump, point blank, period. If you vote for either political party, you are a chump, point blank, period. These two parties are bought and paid for. They represent the same Jesuit, Masonic, tyrant cabal they have for all of our lifetimes. And to not know about that in 2025 in the information age is what makes you a chump. And it's my kind of language and talking this way, which drives so many people away. But you know what? If you can't handle it, you probably weren't going to listen in the first place. You're probably hell-bent on being part of the problem and supporting these crony candidates, this puppet show, this rigged system. Again, had you been here listening, you would have known 4 years ago why they were reinstalling the chump in 2025 and why the market was going to come down, because it's exactly what happened when they installed Grover Cleveland, who has all the parallels to Trump, the only other split-term president. Again, all of this stuff is predictable. And again, who's running the show? It's obvious. Oh, look at one of the big headlines today. Here's another one. You don't think it's the Jesuits? China hit the hardest with 54% tariffs. Do you think this is a tribute to the Jesuits and Sun Tzu's Art of War when Trump's Mr. Art of the Deal? It's like a collage of both books. And for people who don't know, Art of War, credited to the Chinese general Sun Tzu, where there's no proof he ever existed. But the reason people know about the text is because of the Jesuit priest, Father Ami, out of France. Again, it was published by him in 1773, right before this nation was established and taken over shortly after by the Jesuits, which has been at war ever since by the Art of War Code. Anyway, there is literally a joke with the Art of War and the Art of the Deal. I'm going to show you just how perfectly this all comes together. And keep in mind that the common belief is that Sun Tzu died at age 47. Yeah. That is the common belief, that Sun Tzu died at 47. And here we are in the time of number 47 when Trump equals 47 like tariffs. But notice, trade war is 54, right? Trade war, 54. Again, Trump laid out his plans on 4-2, World War 42. Yesterday, 4-2 had 51 date numerology, Art of War 51. Notice the overlap with Art of War and World War. Now, keep in mind, April 12th, the anniversary of the start of the American Civil War, is the 102nd day of the year. Where will we be by April 12th? And then where will we be 12 days later by April 24th? These are both dates to definitely keep an eye on in light of this escalating trade war. Don't forget, with regards to the Jesuits and Art of War, it was Abe Lincoln who blamed the American Civil War on the Jesuits, a war that began on the 102nd day of the year, when, again, Art of War is credited to a Jesuit priest. I mean, it's credited to Sun Tzu, but again, there's no proof of Sun Tzu ever existed, and the only reason the book's known about is because of the Jesuit priest. The Jesuits are the military order that represents the Roman Catholic Church that runs this nation, and puppets like the orange goon shown on the screen right now. So, again, China already had 20% tariffs on them, and now an additional 34% puts it at 54. You run the alphabetic order forwards, tariffs is 34. Remember, Trump paused his tariffs on the 34th day of the year. He first implemented his first tariffs exactly 47 weeks after the anniversary of the publishing of Wealth of Nations, the book by Adam Smith, the father of economics, who said tariffs should never be used because they're destructive and they start wars. Anyway, 54% with the 34% new tariffs. And here we are on the date that can be written 3-4, right? And if you guys don't know this, here, let me just show you real quick. Science, Jesus, crucifixion, April 12th. Should be enough to pull it up if I spell science right. So again, in 2012, all these articles were published that science had figured out that Jesus was crucified on April 3rd. That's today, right? We're talking about the Society of Jesus. The Jesuits run all this. Notice how Jesus Christ is 43, right? It's also 74, like today's Trump's 74th day being back in office, for the record. But you can run it the other way, too. The date can be written 3/4. Jesus is 34. Cross is 34. Church is 34. Tariffs is 34. Today's the day they're really having a major impact on the market that's completely controlled and rigged. Tariffs is 79, like Society of Jesus, like Trump's about to turn 79 years old on June 14th. Again, just to remind you who's running the show, the Society of Jesus, a.k.a. the Jesuits. But look at this also. From Trump's anniversary of publishing The Art of the Deal until his announcement yesterday was a span of 153 days, right? Jesuit Order 153. Yesterday was 72 days after Trump took office, or his 73rd day of being in office, just like today's 73 days after he took office, or his 74th day of being in office. But again, President Trump 72, like Jesuit Order. The United States of America 144, like Jesuit Order. China getting the worst of it at 54%. Just notice how all of the Jesuit numbers fit in so perfectly. And don't forget, the Jesuit logo is the sun, like the one in the sky that the Catholic Church began by worshiping before they invented the language and made the word sun also correspond with male offspring, and then bring the holy day Christmas on top of Sol Invictus, the worship of the Sunday. But anyway, sun is also 54. Sun Tzu, right? The market's down to 41K today. Sun Tzu, 41. And again, you can guarantee the people at the top who rig the system and control these rituals are having a field day at the public's expense. The public's way down. The people at the top are further up. But yeah, I mean, here, Sun Tzu, commonly believed to be dead at 47. Some say 48. Yesterday, Trump spoke for 48 minutes in the Rose Garden. Again, a rose is a symbol of secrecy to the occult. Donald Trump, 48, like Illuminati is 48, like Freemasons, 42 and 48. Again, speaking on 4-2 for 48 minutes. Talking about how he's reshaping economics, how in the long run this is going to be good for America. Again, just remember, Freemason and economics are the exact same in all four ciphers. DC is the Masonic city. The Jesuits wrote many of the rites for Freemasonry. The 32nd degree of the Scottish Rite shares the Jesuit motto in Merum de Gloriam, like there's 32 sun rays on the Jesuit Order's logo. On and on and on. And don't forget, Jesuit also equates to 42. Trump's 78 at the time all these rituals, paired up with the other 78 puppet, Elon Musk. And again, in history, Trump's uncle audited Tesla's papers when he died by the numbers. Tesla equals 78. Now, while Trump's 78, he's paired up with the wannabe Tesla, Elon Musk, the puppet on strings. You see how tariffs is 110 and 47, and this is what Trump's presidency is being staked on. President is 110 and 47. Again, the for all the people who are in the trust the plan mode, we're back to trust the plan. And again, just try to argue their side of the equation. They're saying that all of these tariffs are going to force people who've gone overseas and outsourced their business to have to come back to America, bring manufacturing back to America, and in the long run, that's going to be good for America. I will give that narrative a chance of possibility. The reality is, though, is it's going to make everything a whole lot more expensive. However, if it did bring good jobs back to America and people had a lot more money, it could be like the early days of Henry Ford, where he paid his employees well so that they could afford to buy the vehicles. But the reality is there's no real historical evidence anywhere of tariffs being anything other than destructive. And again, all the evidence is all this is purposeful ritual to bring destruction to the average person. Thus why the first tariffs were literally implemented exactly 47 weeks after the anniversary of the publishing of The Wealth of Nations, the book by Adam Smith, which clearly describes why tariffs should never be imposed, because they're simply destructive. And I don't know if the world's changed in this Orwellian Trump age, but again, I'm somebody who went to business school. I have an undergrad in accounting. Adam Smith has always been taught about in business schools, and why he's remained the father of economics, and his teachings are so true from the time he wrote his book, which was published in 1776 when this nation was born, all the way up to the present. And there's something about that too, because 1776 was 248 years ago, right? And Trump's like flipping all that on its head 248 years later. And we know about all the rituals with Trump in 248. It was part of the reason we said he'd be reinstalled as president while the country's 248 years old. Of course, the first time around, the election was called for him. Hillary conceded while Trump was on 248 electoral college votes at the time. But yeah, Trump, again, 48-minute speech yesterday in the Rose Garden discussing his plans and how this was going to be good in the long run on 4/2, again, in the Masonic city. Most of them not even understanding. Again, this is the thing. I mean, like, how many people in America have you started and say, if they had to take a true or false, so you said, a rose is a symbol of secrecy, true or false? How many Americans would have a confident answer about that? A lot would probably guess, like, oh, I'm not sure. Some guy would be like, I don't know. I like to give them to my girlfriend. Again, the term Rosicrucian, secret society related to the Masons. That's where the rose part of that word comes from. Rose. And, you think about roses, they're pretty, right? But they got big thorns that can stick you. A lot of times when people think of roses, they think of the blood red ones. Think about what the Masons do, where they make you put on the blindfold and they point the knives at you as you go through the initiation, which means essentially keep the secrets or else. But yeah, the 48-minute speech from the chump yesterday, laying out his trade war. It's world war through trade. And again, Adam Smith wrote very clearly about how tariffs lead nations into war. Don't forget how Netanyahu came back on Albert Pike's birthday. And of course, once upon a time, Albert Pike published a letter about 3 world wars to come on the Jesuit order's birthday, August 15th. Recently, Trump lost his brother on August 15th. A lot of Jesuit rituals go down that day. Like Afghanistan's government collapsed that day, like Nixon changed the gold standard that day, yada, yada, yada. But weather warfare was admitted to on that day, as we're about to get into in a minute. Here's my note yesterday about Jesuit and trade in 21, and here we are the next day where they've now got the stat that it's going to cost the average American $2,100 a year. So, okay. Moving along. Again, weather warfare. A form of warfare that can be perpetrated by the ruling class that is going over almost everyone's head and is costing everyone big time in their pocketbook. Everyone is paying way more in insurance because of the weather warfare that's been going on, that's being blamed on climate change, which serves another agenda of the elite, because through climate change, they can get people to give up rights and liberties and pay more in taxes. And again, you can blame it on Mother Nature when that is not the case. I said yesterday that today was probably going to be the day of the big flood headlines, and this was CNN this morning. Stock tumbles and dollar weakens as recession fears grip Wall Street. Everything is blowing up in puppet Elon Musk's face. We got if you guys missed my work on Mr. Gardner's son's death, you should go back and check that out. Couldn't have been any more by the numbers. Started with rare illness, then it looked like asphyxiation, and then that went away, and now it was carbon monoxide poisoning. Oh, okay. So apparently it didn't affect anyone else. But anyway, look at the headline down at the bottom. 4 dead. How many times have we talked about this, how they always just got to report 4 dead, even though we know that's a false stat? 4 dead. Why do they report 4 dead? Because 4 is associated with death, and it comes from Mandarin, Chinese, and Japanese. In both languages, the number 4 equates to death. And remember, the Jesuits who built this system, Jesuits spent a lot of time in the Far East learning from the people of the Far East. There's the hidden history of Jesus, where they believe that from Jesus, again, don't take my word for it. Watch the BBC documentary from the 80s on this, about how Jesus spent a lot of his life. That's why it's not talked about from age 12 to 30 in the Bible, but a lot of his life in present day Asia studying Buddhism. Said the Templars went to great lengths to hide this information and this history about Jesus' life. Remember, the Templars are now the Jesuits. That's why the Templar cross is right in the middle of the Jesuit order's logo. Templars are the original bankers. All wars are bankers' wars. Weather warfare generates major profit for the central bankers because, again, the governments have to go out and get loans from these central bankers, and all those fees and interest get paid on or passed on to the taxpayers. Now you're paying for the tariffs, you're paying for the weather warfare, you're paying for additional fees through insurance. Man, how do you keep up? How do you afford to have a child? And just the joke of a system we live in, too. It's just like the thing that just happened to us. Our baby's born. We have a doctor that's supposed to be there. He can't be there that day, so they have to bring in another doctor. We're still at the same hospital we plan to go to the whole time. and then we get an extra nearly $2,000 charge on the bill because the doctor who delivered the baby wasn't covered within our network. I mean, how are we even supposed to know that? We didn't get a choice. We had a doctor the whole time that wasn't our network. But this is all the goofy stuff about our system. It's just ridiculous on so many levels, and it just gets more and more ridiculous with time. But think about that. I mean, that's a major extra charge, an extra $2,000. Anyway, and you pay all this money in insurance, and it's just... Anyway. The reason I said today was going to be the day of the headlines is because it's the same thing I've taught about for about a decade now. I think I locked into weather warfare probably about 2015 in the 52 code. Again, the first act of weather warfare was admitted to in 1952 on the Jesuit order's birthday. Today's date numerology is 52. 4 plus 3 plus 20 plus 25 is 52. 4 dead after tornado outbreak with millions under flash flood warnings as potentially historic flooding event ramps up. That is CNN's headline this morning. And again, it's just clockwork. This goes on month after month, year after year. So many times pointing it out way in advance. And it really does frustrate me that nobody has helped get this knowledge out. No one. It's the kind of thing that makes me rant the way I do. I do feel like humanity deserves to get washed away in the biblical flood. Every YouTuber with a platform who knows about this and doesn't share about it because of whatever reason, they're worried that they're going to get demonetized, or they're worried they're going to end up like me with 20-some channel deletions. See, because you made that choice, that you were worried about something that ultimately is so petty, you might be the person that gets blown away in the windstorm, or loses your whole livelihood because weather warfare came crashing down on your house. And these are the reasons I've never stopped anything or put anything ahead of the message. I've dealt with the continual channel deletions and suppression and the crazy level of suppression we have now. See, the sad thing is when I was covering weather warfare in 2017, 2018, these videos were getting over 500,000 views. Now look, I can hardly get 2,000 views. That's very frustrating. But even still, again, the remedy to that is more people helping talk about this, you know, instead of high-impact flicks over there going like, I'm not sure. I mean, to me, it looks like it could be confirmation bias. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, confirmation bias. Yeah, not at all. Not at all. Same shit over and over. And again, you guys just think about this whole thing of Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. Where does it come from? It comes from the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. And again, Genesis is the first book of the Torah. It's also the first book of the Bible. Genesis 8:3, like flood is 83, like earth is 83. In Genesis 8:3, the Bible states that the water receded steadily from the earth, and at the end of the 150 days, the water had gone down. That's the end of the biblical flood story. Couldn't be any more perfectly coordinated. These same numbers come up all the time in weather warfare. Again, flood, earth, Enlil, all perfect overlap. And Enlil, again, is the Babylonian god of flooding, where all of this knowledge goes back to. The whole thing of Kabbalah goes back to Babylon, a place that's right in the beginning of the Bible. Genesis. The Genesis. Yeah, the only question I have at this point is how much of this is technology and how much is also sorcery. Again, I do think there's a sorcerer element to this as well. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it is all technology. But the reason I say that is because if you look back actually in history, a lot of crazy weather events like predating, 1952 when the first act of weather warfare was admitted to, you see similar things. And keep in mind, prophecy also equates to 52 and 29. You can see where the 52s and the 29s are up here. So, and the devil has some major parallels to Enlil as well, if you want to research the topic of Enlil. By the way, yesterday when we were covering this, they didn't really mention Tennessee in the morning when I covered this. It's very likely they started to mention Tennessee later in the day. But you see how Tennessee's 34 in the most peer? Twisters is 34. And in this reporting, let me see where they wrote this at. Look at this. Look at this. Death toll climbs. At least 4 people were killed by the outbreak of tornadoes and severe storms. 3 in Tennessee. Now, did we just talk about 34 in Tennessee, before March Madness with the Houston-Tennessee match? I mean, we called it out before the tournament began. We explained why Houston was going to get their 34th win over Tennessee. Did you see the score of the Houston-Tennessee game? Did you see how Houston was up 34-15 at halftime on Tennessee? You have no idea how redundant these numbers are with rig sports, college and pro in that state of Tennessee. But the point, and don't I say this all the time? Same kind of rigged news script as the sports script. They'll use the same numbers. They're reporting supposedly that 3 of the 4 dead were in Tennessee from the Twisters. You know what I mean? And by the way, the town that got the worst of this, you see how Twisters is also 83? There's that number again. Look at the town that got the worst of this. Selmer. Selmer got the worst of the tornadoes. This is where the people are dead, right? Selmer, Tennessee. Look at this. Selmer, Tennessee, 83, like Twisters. What else is 83? Murder. Again, the song Murder by Numbers came out in 1983 about how killing's the sport of the elite, the sport of the elected. It's as simple as ABC as 1, 2, 3. That this won't go down ever as a murder in history. None of this will go down as murder. But what is it really? I would say this is murder. These people were murdered by weather warfare. And for anyone to say, oh, that's some crackpot theory. For the person who makes those kind of claims, hey, let's debate on any stage. Let's see what kind of evidence you have on your side, and then let's go through my plethora of over a decade's worth of evidence talking about the same things over and over and over and over again. I don't think there's a better supported argument for anything in the world than the documentation we got on weather warfare. They got to get the video footage from April 3rd, too, of what happened here in Tennessee, right? The date that can be written 3-4 from the Twisters. So, yeah, same places that just got ravaged by the... Remember, the 2 major hurricanes at the last year were both major 83 rituals. And... you know, same parts here that were impacted by that. Now got to face this, not even that long after. Yesterday was a rare 5 out of 5 warning for the EF3 tornadoes and above, and today's a rare 4 out of 4 warning for flooding. And again, 4 out of 4, 5 out of 5, military 44 and 55. We talked about how yesterday was 257 days after the Twisters movie came out, which is the 55th prime. Talked about how big 55 was in the major earthquake that just happened in Myanmar and Thailand. And just same stuff over and over. And again, just to be super redundant, the Jesuit order, weather control. That Twisters movie did come out on the 201st day of the leap year last year, July 19th, 2024. Again, the first act of weather warfare admitted to on the Jesuit order's birthday. What Lyndon Johnson said about controlling the weather and controlling the world 201 days after JFK died at Jesuit Holy Cross. Where's your argument that this isn't what's going on? And think about it. Why wouldn't a religious militaristic order who's hell-bent on world domination, why wouldn't they want to control the weather and do things that are biblical? And how often do you see the headlines that they do say biblical, though? The headlines, biblical flooding. You know, one headline will say, once in a 1,000-year flooding. The next one will say, biblical level flooding. Again, it's a mockery. It's a mockery. And here we are on Jesus' crucifixion anniversary. You know, a tragic day for the Christians. The Bible Belt's getting smashed with flooding and tornadoes. You can't see how this is like a middle finger from the people at the top. Yeah, you guys are going to be on your knees with your hands folded tonight, believing in all of our shit. We fed you the fake religion to keep you parked on your ass. We fed you all the nonstop propaganda on TV so you don't have a clue what's going on. You're on your knees, praying to the man we told you to pray to, rather than being a man and taking on the tyrants you should be taking on. You know what I mean? If you don't know what I mean, it's because you're under severe indoctrination. You know, how come Jesus hasn't been doing live streaming for over a decade on weather warfare? Imagine if he would just come down out of the clouds and do some live streams on YouTube. You'd have this whole thing solved in 2 minutes. He just needs to see a few more evil actions by the Society of Jesus before he comes out and says it's time to shut it down. He just needs a few more. He'll be here any day now. I'd be a gazillionaire. I'd be the richest man in the world if I could tell you all the times in my comments, Zach, just Jesus is about to come back any day. You'll see. Okay. Yeah. Sure, half those people are dead now, waiting for Jesus on their knees. And don't get me wrong, you guys. I do believe there is a creator. I do pray myself, but I also put action into it. What do they say? Faith without works is dead. Yeah, most people don't know that quote. Waiting for man from the sky to come save you and doing nothing else in your life. You know, video games. I got to play Call of Duty. Oh, hold on. I need a break. My favorite porn site just uploaded on my $1 a month subscription. Hold on. Sorry, Jesus. I'm sorry I'm a sinner. Please come save us. Okay, back to Call of Duty. I'm going to jerk it again. How many people is this what's going on in the nation right now? That's like their contribution to life. Video games and jerking off. It's like a whole generation. And then if occasionally they'll drop by my video and leave some troll comment. Oh, weather warfare, what a lunatic. I got Call of Duty to play. No time for this. Oh, God, Pornhub has a new video up. Okay, yeah, and again, Missouri got ransacked on 4/2, and Owasso got ransacked on the 92nd day of the year, the date with 51 date numerology. And I saw somebody left a comment this morning about another town that got ransacked that equaled 92. Sorry, I didn't save the comment. I missed it. I said yesterday why Kentucky better look out today. Kentucky got ransacked this morning. So look out for the flooding stuff today, and boom, here we are. And I guess just for good measure, just about, you know, all the coincidence theory stuff, how they love to mock us with coincidence theory. Two big stories yesterday. Carmelo Anthony, the basketball star, inducted into the Hall of Fame or nominated for the Hall of Fame. And Carmelo Anthony, the Texas athlete, stabbed another high school Texas athlete to death on the same day. A different Carmelo Anthony, spelled with a K instead of a C. And this happened on 4/2. And again, in my same book from 2017 that talks about weather warfare and largely focused on 52, there's a chapter about how black men are shamed and killed and rituals are performed around them around this number 42. But Carmelo, Jackie, Tuskegee, Slavery, Cosby Show, Huxtable, Martin, Malcolm X, and the list goes on, all 42. This is the news on 4/2. I've always said the NBA is the 17 league. That's written about in the same book. A 17-year-old kills a 17-year-old. Carmelo Anthony, on the same day as Carmelo Anthony, the NBA star, who went to Syracuse, where a lot of great black athletes who were 44 all dead. And this ritual just happened to come 44 weeks after Carmelo's birthday. Big kill numbers, 44 and 17. And Carmelo has the same birthday as JFK, who was killed in Dallas, near where this stabbing happened in Frisco, which is just outside of Dallas. And not to mention last year's NBA Finals were a tribute to the JFK assassination, which we covered before the thing began and documented game by game throughout. Same numbers we talked about before a single game were played in the finals is played out over and over and over. Again, Boston Celtics, only team in the league that equaled 78. Like Kennedy, finals began on their 78th birthday. They won the 78th NBA season, called that before the season began. Easy peasy, things we do year after year. But, yeah, I mean, just look how perfect this is. Again, JFK turned 44 when he became president. He was the 44th term president, went through the 44th inauguration. Again, you think this is an accident that it just happens to be 44 weeks after Carmelo's birthday, this big kill number, not to mention the stabbing when the Ides of March, just to remember the stabbing of Caesar in 44 BC. We're coming right up on April 4th. Remember the other year when Bob Lee got stabbed to death on April 4th, Mr. Digital Currency, when FedNow or the Federal Reserve announced that they'd begin certifying the FedNow system the first week of April, and they put that out on the Ides of March. Again, we taught about that in the streets of San Francisco. Made a busload of tourists stop and listen to us before they even got on their bus. I mean, we had a bunch of people whose jaws were on the ground in San Francisco educating about this on the streets, the Bob Lee murder. And that's why there needs to be a lot more on-the-ground teaching. I'm happy to do it, but my community is not happy to support me when I do it. Funding always goes down when I get out on the streets. When I get back to sports decoding, it always goes back up, which is why every day the sports decoding is the top priority. There should be so much funding just for the news element of this. I shouldn't even have to do sports decoding. I should be able to pass that torch on to all the other people who do it. And there are people who are good at it, but I should just got to promote those people all day. But again, I mean, the reality is if I'm not sports decoding, there's not much funding for this movement. Anyway, again, Anthony played for the Rockets in Houston. There's a lot of focus on the Houston basketball team, who's on 44 tournament wins at this time. And we just saw the sacrifice of George Foreman. Big George equals 42. The night after his death, Houston got their 42nd win in the tournament. Again, like we said, George Foreman, oldest heavyweight champion at age 45, held that title until 95. I told you before Houston even won that game the next day that they'd be in the final 4-on-4-5, the 95th day of the year. I'm pretty sure this is also factoring in because these were high school seniors who were expected to play college sports that this stabbing's involved in. And the other thing is again, how does this even happen? Please watch the show Utopia. There's a British version and there's a remade American version by Amazon that was put out in the time of the scandemic. You got to watch both versions. It's a evil show. It's a horrific show. It'll probably gross you out in a lot of ways, but it's important to watch because it's one of those pieces of fiction that's not really fiction. It's one of these things where the cabal is telling you what's going on in the world. Again, if you don't know what Utopia is about, it's about billionaires using the media they control to fake a pandemic so that they can mass depopulate the world through pokey-dokes. Yeah, Amazon was nice enough to remake it in the time of the scandemic while we were on lockdown, about the same time the pokey-dokes came out. And there's all these other plot elements in it. Like, for example, the billionaires are raising children to use for rituals in the news, including sacrificing them for whatever need there might be for the story. They're raising high school or just school mass shooters. Another plot element is that they have like some kind of people that seem like ordinary civilians who work normal jobs and have families. Like, for example, in one scene, a guy's a mechanic and he has a family and he's nice with his family and his wife and his children. But then he gets this phone call from the people at the top and it does some like beep, shh, some little signal thing in his ear and he turns into a maniacal killer. Again, you watch this and you're like, is this what's going on with everything in the world? Is this like actually what it is? Is this actually what it is, what they're putting in this show Utopia? Seems like it is. It would explain everything, really. And then the dopes would be like, oh, you really think the plot of Utopia is what they're doing? Well, take a look. I mean, how many stories are there like this? The guy who goes in and tries to kill the president or shoots up the school is like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. He was like the best guy on the block. And he just goes and randomly targets just innocent people in a mall, a grocery store, a bowling alley. And then a week later, they release his manifesto, and he was an online conspiracy theorist who hated the government. It's like, why don't these people ever go shoot up the government then? They just go shoot up their neighbors? Doesn't make any sense. Did he get the, weird call with the cell phone? Oh, yeah, by the way, this happened in Frisco on the 92nd day of the year. Just all the coincidences that you have to believe in. Oh, that's a coincidence. That's a coincidence. That's a coincidence. That's a coincidence. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it was Kentucky that got smashed today, sadly, as predicted. And Kentucky's really been getting smashed ever since they put up that Noah's Ark tribute. You see how Kentucky's got the 29-106. It's got the 110 actually too. Kentucky's got the 110, 29-106, just like prophecy. The biblical flood, biblical prophecy. So let's see, where's the market now at? The market is now down almost 1,600 points. We got 16 date numerology. And remember, Hegseth's up here. Remember, Hegseth was picked to lead the military department on the Superior General's birthday. And then he was fully sworn in 38 days after the Pope's birthday when Pentagon equals 38. And again, the Pentagon's on the 38th parallel, and that's the big killing number. Death, murder, killing, RIP are all 38 like Pentagon. It's the nation's killing department. So many angles to just point to who's controlling the show. And then meanwhile, the supposed truth community, people who've been around for years, that still all they can say is small hats, small hats, small hats. Where's any proof they're running anything other than the media in Hollywood? I don't deny that, but that's not who runs the show. Again, the Protestant Reformation did target those two religions. It just, I focus on the tip of the spear. Not plan B. So a lot of you guys are focused on plan B. You can't sync up anything with the leader of and by the way, I can point to you all day how the ADL is actually a Jesuit organization, and that's why they installed Greenblatt on the 201st day of the year, which is a horrible, polarizing individual. I get all that, but he doesn't run anything. He's another puppet. So, who runs the banks? No, they don't. The two biggest banks in this nation have the Jesuits and the Templars in Italy written all over them. Bank of America is the second biggest bank, and they started as Bank of Italy. And Chase, where did Mr. J.P. Morgan die in history? He died at the hands of the Vatican in Italy. That's who runs those banks. So, no, the original bankers are Templars, not small hats. If you're saying they run the banks too, you don't know what you're talking about. They run some banks, but again, they're plan B. If you don't understand their plan B, you just don't know what you're talking about. You don't have any facts on your side. You're going to get ran over all day. You're going to get ran over with facts all day. Two biggest banks in this nation got the Italian connection. So, all right. I'm going to drop the link for anybody who wants to come. Oh, God, it's already later than I thought. Man, I was talking longer than I meant to. All right. I got time for maybe one or two callers, and then I got to get out of here. All right. Yeah, I just dropped the link. It looks like that. If you guys want to come on, got to make it quick. You got something to add. If you're one of those people who left a comment about the town that got ransacked by the numbers, I'd love a quick call in like that. Just adding more evidence to the case. The leaflets dropped over Gaza. Remember, they were dropping leaflets all over the Middle East, and we were over there, 20 years ago. That's why when they did that in that movie, that was really a tribute to the past. Yeah, the leaflet thing's been going on, so that's not new. All right, so far nobody has joined, and that's okay if nobody joins because actually I need to be heading out of here. All right, we just had one person hop in. Caller, you're on.
Hey, yeah, it's good to hear from you, Zach. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of just comments from like my family and whatnot. Like when you see these psyops, like when you see these things happening, immediately like you get one of two responses. You get the far left crazy, oh, this was AI. As far as the stabbing that happened today, I got family members saying, oh, this is AI. Look at the photos. They're circling the dude's ear and the kid's ear and whatnot. It's crazy. Or you get people who are, oh, this is just a casual, natural, organic scenario. But of course, when you see these things line up, and even those that I've tried to share gematria with, they're like, oh, but what's the significance of numbers? And you can make anything add up to anything. It kind of gets ridiculous because people are willing to accept that the world is dark, but they're not willing to look into tools, resources, or even
Do you ever
symbolic.
wonder how everybody got that idea in their head that you can just make numbers line up? Because it seems like 90% of the populace, almost like how you know how you can buy those dolls where you like wind it up and it's got one phrase, you wind up one more time, it's got a second phrase, you wind up another time, it's got a third phrase, and it starts back over at the first phrase. This is how I see humanity, and I've seen it this way since I was 18 and 9/11 happened. But don't you want, like, where did it come from that everybody just says the same things?
I think because I'll be honest with you, I just got laid off in February. As a matter of fact, I got laid off just before the Super Bowl took place, from FAFSA. So I was working for federal student aid, and even just listening, like when I'm having conversations with parents about their kids, it's like some of the kids are on the phone talking to me more mature and more intelligent than their parents are, and I'm like, the fact that they want to get rid of the Department of Education like this, regardless of how inefficient every single government office is, because it wasn't a clean show, working for them. But this is a deliberate attack on, this is an epidemic. I say it all the time to my friends. This is an epidemic of maturity and intelligence. And it's not supposed to be like some sort of supremacy to where intellectualism has been under attack, but now seeing the full ramifications and how it's coming together, they deliberately need people to be as fucking retarded as they could possibly biologically could be, so that they could never understand. Because if you talk to a Jewish rabbi, whether they're a Zionist or Ashkenazi Jew, they know Gematria. If you talk to them about Jesus Christ, they're not white nationalist Christians. But if you talk to anybody, any average Joe, they wouldn't have the capacity. It seems like mechanically, like physically, they don't have the capacity to intake anything that could bring them into a new mental paradigm as far as how they interact with reality and see reality for what it is. I don't have any numbers for you. I'm doing decodes for sports myself. I have a bunch of notes and whatnot, but as far as just the day-to-day, it's like sometimes I don't even finish your videos because I know what numbers are going to come up next, and I'm doing my best to I try to keep that viewership to help out the channel, but it's like, seriously, these things happen. How many more 86 44s 17s 38s, 83s do you need to show somebody before it's like, wait, why the fuck do these numbers keep happening?
And by the way, yesterday
you don't
Joey
get people
called
to
in
even
about
ask the
the
question.
Carmelo 44 thing before the stabbing happened, and then next thing you know,
Wow.
there's a Carmelo Anthony killing later in the day.
Wow.
It's like, come on, man.
And the fact that it happened on the same exact day, like I have basketball friends. I try to show them as much gematria, from your channel, from other channels as well. There's so many perspectives to see. Even the thing that you said about Val Kilmer, Nikola Jokic, known as the Joker, who won his first and only NBA championship 4-1. I think his name equals 41.
Did you see the game he had on April 1st? Did you see the game he had the day Val Kilmer died?
No.
Look at this.
I didn't.
Look at this. Look at his box score the day that Val Kilmer died, man. It's just how redundant it is.
You got to be kidding me if he scored fucking 41 points. He
had a monster game. Look at this. We for the record, we had the Timberwolves to upset. They've had the Nuggets. We had this one right. They were an underdog, but no, he had a monster game. Jokic on 4-1 went for 61 points and had a triple-double. 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 61.
Yeah, he went stupid. Yeah. And the part that really conflicts me is like we have the ability to use inferential what was taught to me as inferential knowledge, right? You can infer using an educated guess, and it's not really a guess, it's just using the best possible logical compilation of what you know about the world to solve other problems of the world. So when you're seeing Dame Lillard shots from 37 feet,
curving
exactly
through the air.
you know what I'm saying? When you see these things, you can people who have an intelligence are like, okay, a magnetic lace in the ball with technology to change the trajectory. Even the field goals, some of the field goals were that Ohio State in 2022. I had Ohio State to beat Georgia. That fucking last kick was the most garbage shit I've ever seen in my life. And I mean, you don't have to be a genius of physics, but if you play a little ball, if you experience a little life, you can see things that are so crazy. That's like,
it never used to happen.
The numbers line up.
It never used to happen in football years ago, where a kick would be slicing away and then bend back the other way to make it through the upright.
I mean, that kick didn't go 25 yards, and it veered off to the right.
Exactly.
It was insane.
Technology to ensure outcomes. I'd encourage everybody to watch the Texas Tech comeback versus Arkansas. The shot that tied it up at 72-72. That ball should have been front iron.
Ridiculous.
Its trajectory changed and it got sucked through the rim. You could see it if you were watching. It was like, come on, man.
But you show them the numbers. Plus, even just on the basic level, people can understand that referees can fix games and things like that, simple shit. But as much money as we've spent towards cancer research and medical technology development, you sincerely think that they don't have technology to influence the way the ball moves in the fucking air?
Hey, friend, I love your call. You got to call back in more, man. You're a great caller. I hope when I start with the podcast, you phone in. I do have to get going, though, and I want to let one more person.
Yeah. Of course, man.
Yeah, thank you for your call. Great call. What's up, Flip? Flip, did you want to contribute? Well, maybe not. Flip, I can't hear you.
What's up, Zach? How
Yeah,
you
what's up?
doing?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, no, I just wanted to let you know, I appreciate it while you're doing and about. Oh, can you hear me now?
I think you need to turn off your video and just speak through the StreamYard. I think you're on delay, probably. John, I see your thing about not letting you do a. Don't worry, John. You've done enough super chats. A lot of people get. I actually get that message a lot that it won't let people send a super chat. Maybe that's what happened in March too, because I got almost no super chats in March, and that was part of the reason funding was way down too, as well as views. But it's okay, John. You've met the quota by a lot. Thank you, John. Caller, did you figure out how to turn off the video and just talk?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. Well, he was struggling there. Again, for the next time for somebody comes on StreamYard, you close the YouTube video. You don't keep that open because that's on delay, and you just stay inside StreamYard. You hear the whole stream in there, and then when everything's in real time, when it's your time. So I do got to go get sweet little girl. If you guys ever did want to send support and it's not letting you send a what do they call it? A super chat. I do have CashApp, VenMo, PayPal. I do appreciate all forms of generosity. Don't feel inclined, but the ways to support are in the description of every video, including supporting the Patreon, pledging $1 a month. Thank you to everyone who does that. So. Yeah, this work really should have way more people behind it. I just imagine how many people lost their properties in the last decade plus that I was educating about weather warfare, and had those people supported the work, probably would have had enough to build a few GematriaEffectNews studios, and maybe they wouldn't have lost their property because the whole agenda would have been exposed by now. So, again, you don't support the right causes, you don't get behind the right people, there's consequences. And again, there's other people speaking a good message out there, but I don't think anybody else has been more on point in the time I've been here. Nobody else figured out the cabal code and how this stuff gets laid down every day and been ahead of the storms, the market, all this stuff. This knowledge can pad your pockets and help you save your home. So we'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. And until next time.